Hello everyone. In learning Python programming, uh, today we see some questions and answers about the Python programming. So the first question comes into the picture that what are the major differences between Python 2 and Python 3? So the first major difference is print statement. So in Python 2 the print statement is written without parenthesis. However in Python 3 print is a function and should be called with parenthesis. And of course the both they give the same value in this example, but in Python 3 they consider it as a function. Now the second difference is division operation, that is very interesting. In Python 2 the division operation performs integer division if both operands are integer, which means that the result is tuned towards the 0. So in this example that we can see that print 7 by 3 is an integer division because 7 and 3 both are the integer and result is tuned towards the 0, so the result comes 2. But in Python 3 the division operation always perform floating point operation even if both operands are integers, so the result is not tuned towards the 0 and outcome is a float value. Here the outcome is 2.33 like this one. Third difference is Unicode. So in Python 2, there are two type of the strings. One is the str and another one is the Unicode. The str type represent a sequence of the bytes, while the Unicode type represent a sequence of the Unicode characteristics. So here in this case example, the name is a string type, and because it consists only the ASCII characters, if the string has contained non-ASCII character, it would have been a Unicode. But in this case, this is a string. Why? Because all the names are in the ASCII code. In Python 3, there is only one type of the string, which is str, and this type represent a sequence of the Unicode characters. Now the next difference is exception handling. So in Python 2, the syntax for catching an exception and assign it to value is like separated by the comma, exception, comma, e. And in Python 3, the syntax for catching an exception and assign it like this one. So here we use the as keyword to separate between exception and e. The next difference is range function. So in Python 2, this is very interesting. So in Python 2, the range function return a list of the integer starting from 0 to upper limit, whatever the limit is given. So in this example, the range 3 returns the integer 0, 1 and 2. In Python 3, the range function behave differently. It returns an as a range object instance of a list, and to get the same behavior as the Python 2, you need to call the convert the range object to the list by using the list function. So as shown in here, we use the list function to find out the same result as the Python 2. The next difference is xrange function. Yes, in Python 2, the xrange function is similar to the range function, but it returns the xrange object instance of the list. And this can be more effective when dealing with the large values or large range because it generates the number of the fly instead of creating a list in the memory. So as a memory complexity, you can reduce the memory requirement if you use the xrange function in Python 2. And in Python 3, the xrange function has been removed and only the range function is there, and range function behave like the xrange function. So that is the range objectives. So on fly you can create the data up to the maximum limit and save the memory. Now after that, raise function. So in Python 2, raise statement can be used with the comma to separate the execution type and the messages. So here we can see the value array error comma error type. But in Python 3, the syntax has changed to eliminate the comma and pass the execution type and message as argument to the execution constraint constructor. Sorry, type of the constructor. So this is the difference between Python 2 and Python 3 for range statement. Now in the next statement, so in next statement in Python 2, the next function can be used to get the next item from the itinerary. So in this example, the I is the objective and create from the list 1, 2, 3. So first item of in this iterative is the retrieve the value of next function is 1 because there the first function is the 1. In Python 3, the next function work is same as the Python 2, but it must be called using the function syntax instead of direct. So in this case, I is an itinerary object create from the list 1 to 3. The first item in the itinerary is retrieved using the next function here, and output is 1. This is the recommended that syntax for using the next in the both the Python 2 as well as in the Python. The question is how to define a function in Python. So in Python, the function is a reusable code of reusable block of the code that performs a specific task, and it defines a function using keyword diff keyword followed by the function name, a set of parentheses and a colon. Any input parameters to the function are defined within the parentheses. The code inside the function is the body is here, and it is executed whenever the function is called. Finally, the function can return a value using the return keyword followed by the expression or the value that will return by the function. So the question is explain the concept of variables. So variable in the Python allows to store values and reference them to the name identifiers, and you can change the value of a variable dynamically throughout your program. And Python has several built-in data types for variables such as integer used to store the integer value, float used to store the float point numbers, and numbers with decimal pointers, string used to store the string of the text sequence of the characters, boolean used to store the boolean values, true or the false. List is used to store a sequence of the values which can be of any type. Tuples similar to a list, but these values are immutable, cannot be changed after that. And DICT uh, dictionary is used to store a collection of the key values pairs. So here we have taken example, and here first assign the integer value 10 to the variable I using the assignment operator equal, and then print the value of by using the function print here, and next assign the string value Hariprabhat to the same variable I here, and overwrite its previous I value here, and finally take the print the new value of I using the print parenthesis function. The question is difference between tuples and a list. It's a very interesting question, and numbers of time it comes when we implement the data structure, a large program of the data structure. So here both list and tuples are used in the Python to uh, store or a collection of the multiple values, and they have the similarity. So both they can store the multiple values in a single variable, and they can store with a different type of the values such as integer, string, booleans together. However, they have some differences between list and tuples in the Python. So list is mutable, which means that you can modify these values after they have created, while the tuples is the immutable, which indicates that means that the value cannot be changed after they have been created. And lists are defined using the square braces here, while the tuples are defined as braces. And tuples are faster than the list in terms of the performance because they are immutable, while uh, means that the Python can optimize their memory uses and access them quickly to the memory. Here we have taken an example and create a list called the example one that consists three string variables A, B, and C. And here we use the square brackets, so it indicates that yes, this is the list. And we can also create the tuples called example one. Again, we use the same example one, and here contain the integer 1, 2, 3, and they use the parenthesis which indicate that this is a. So the question is, what is the use of control statements in Python? So control statement such as conditional statement if, else if, else, and loop, for loop, while loop are used to control the flow of a program. by executing specific blocks of code based on a certain condition and repeating them as necessary. So control statements are used to test a condition and execute a specific code if the code is true, else execute another code of block if condition is false. And this allows a program to make decision based on the user's input, calculations, or other factors. So here the loop statement are used to execute a block of code repeatedly, either for a specific number of iterations or until a certain condition is met. Loops are useful for iteration over list, perform calculations, performing calculations, or any other situations where a block of code needs to be executed multiple times. In the in this given code example, and here if else if and else statements are used to determine the value of the variable I and execute a specific block of code based on the value of I, which is right now 25. The for loop is used to iterate over a range of the number and print each one, while the while loop is used to print numbers starting from the 0 and continue until the variable I is no longer less than 5. The question is how to implement inheritance in the Python programming. So in Python, implement inheritance by creating a new class that inherit attributes and the methods from the existing class. This allows to reuse, extend, or modify the behavior of the existing class in the new class. So in this program, and the following steps to implement the inheritance in Python. So very first, define the base class that you want to inherit from. So here the person is the base class. It has a constructor that initializes the name and the age attributes, and the method say hello that print a message. Next, define the derived class that inherited the base class. In this example, the student is the derived class. Inheritance from the person class by specify its the parenthesis after the class name. The derived class can override 8 new methods and attributes to the base class. Next, create an object of the derived class. In this example, the student is an object of the student class that is created by uh, passing the name and the age argument to the constructor. And finally, access the attributes and the method of the derived class. Here the name and the age attributes of the student can be accessed using the dot notations. The say hello method of the student is inherited from the person class and can be called directly on the students. The question is, what is the use of exception in Python? So in the Python, exceptions are used to handle the errors and exception situations that can occur in the Python program. When an error occurs during the execution of a Python program, an exception is raises. If the exception is not caged and handled properly, the program will terminate uh, with an error message. So to handle the exception in the Python, use the try exception block. The try block contains the code that may raise an exception, while the exception block contains the block that will execute if the exception is occurs. Here, the specific type of the exceptions to catch by using the corresponding execution class name of the block. So here in this example, the code is in the try block uh, attempt to divide 5 by 0, which will result in the 0 division error. The execute except code catch this exception and print a custom error message to the console, such as cannot divide by 0. And in this way, the program can handle the error gratefully and continue running instance of the crashing or the error message. What is the difference between deep and the shallow copy? So copying an object in Python programming means creating a new object with the same contents as the original object. However, there are two types of the copy method in the Python: shallow copy and deep copy. So shallow copy creates a new object that contains references to the object in the original object. This means that any changes made to the copy object will also affect the original object. Or in other words, we can say a shallow copy only copy the references to the object in original, not the object itself or themselves. Deep copy, on the other hand, create a completely independent copy of the original object. That means that any changes made in the copied object will not affect the original object. So we can say in that case, a deep copy copies not only just the references to the object in the original, but also the object themselves. So here in this example code, the original object is nested list contain two sublists, AB and another is the CD. The shallow copy the original list, create a new list that contains the references to the same sublist at the original. When a value in one sublist is changed, it affects both the original and the silo copy because they both refer the same sublist. So now, say for example, original is E, and once you replace the first A with E, now the main copy original is A B C D, E B C D in place of A B C D. Next, the deep copy the original list. On the other hand, create a completely independent list of the original list. When a value in the one of the sublist is changed in the deep copy, it does not affect the original list because the deep copy contains its own copy of the sublist. So this is the advantage of the deep copy. The save the original copy and there is no effect on the original copy even if changes occurs in the deep copy. The question is, what is the polymorphism in Python programming? So, polymorphism is a fundamental concept in object orientation programming that refers to the ability of the object of different classes to be used interchangeable. It allows for the great flexibility in the programming and make it easy to reuse the code. And Python programming, they support the two type of polymorphism. One is the duck polymorphism, other one is the method overloading. And duck polymorphisms allow objects of the different type to be used interchangeable as long as they have the same method signatures. This means that the Python does not require the object to be specific type to use a certain method. Instead, it refers to the presence of the required methods of in that object. So we can say simply that if it took like a duck, it run like a duck, it swing like a duck, that means it is probably the duck. So that's why they are known as the duck type polymorphism. And here in this code example, we can say the add of function can take any three argument that can be concatenated with the plus operation regardless of the type. So here we can say that a plus b plus c add. So they take string or integer type, whatever is there, doesn't matter. Now the another class we can go the method overloading polymorphism allow multiple methods with the same name to exist but with a different argument lists. This means that you can define multiple functions with the same name but they will take different arguments or different number of the arguments. Python does not support methods overloading in the traditional sense, but you can achieve in a similar effect by using the this default argument and method overloading by using the method overloading polymorphism. And here in this code, we can see that the add function has three parameters, but in the second and the third parameter, default value is 0. This means that you can call the function with 1, 2 or 3 argument and it will still work correctly without any error. So in summary, we can say the polymorphism is a powerful tool in Python programming language. They support the OOPS concept or they allow the developers to write the flexible and reusable code in the programming language. A wrapper function in the Python programming. So a wrapper function in Python is a special type of the function that allow modify or adjusting the behavior of the other functions without modify its source code. So wrapper functions are typically used with the decoders to modify the behavior of the function dynamically. And Decoder is a function that takes another function as input, modify it, and return the modified function to the function. So to use the wrapper function in Python programming language, first define the function that you want to modify, and then create a wrapper function that modifies the behavior of the original function, and finally the modified function returns. So here for all these you can apply the wrapper function to the original function using the ampersand symbol followed by the name of the decoder function. So here in this example code we can say uh, like this one, that 8 number 8 numbers function is a wrapper function that takes another function as the input and modify its behavior. The wrapper function is defined inside the 8 numbers function and takes another number of positive and keyword argument. It calls the original function, passes to the 8 number with the argument, passes to the wrapper, modify its result by adding the 2 and return the modified result here. The calculate sum function is the original function we want to modify, and we apply the add numbers wrapper function to calculate sum by calling add number calculate sum, and this returns here a new function that behaves like calculate sum but with 2 addition in that value. And we then call the modified function sum with add value with argument 2 and 3, which call the wrapper function with those arguments. Call the original calculate sum functions with those arguments, add 2 to the result, and they return the value of 7. So this is all about the wrapper function in Python program.